If you are missed reading your inbox, I know many times our mail goes to junk box. Please just have a look at it and see that, you pull and grab and tell them it's a genuine mail so that you'll get them. That's why we reach you through so many ways of communication: WhatsApp, SMS, messages, online. And the idea is that we don't want you to miss any of our events. Now, what's happening tomorrow? Tomorrow is from Insight Impact AI in the boardroom. We got phenomenal set of speakers. We already shared with you. We got Srinivasan, editor Chief of Federal, is going to be leading a conversation with Jagan Selvaraj, CEO of Fugal, then Aparna, managing editor of Zoho, then managing engines, then Venkatesh, co-founder and director of Maverick Systems. We've got a line of very outstanding speakers. It's starting tomorrow at 5 p.m. till about 7 o'clock, 6:30. Please do come. It's happening. If you are registered, you have to register them because we already have quite a number of people registered for this. On 19th of July, we have Read and Grow. We know Read and Grow is a very popular series for us. We strongly continue to believe that if you want to be a great leader, better be a great reader. This was a concept which we are trying to inbuild in management students. And Read and Grow is the subject what is chosen for this time is Hidden Potential, the Science of Achieving Greater Things by Adam Grant. That's a book what we are going to be discussing. We got Babu leading the conversation with Raji Rajesh, founder director of Bankos, and Murali Krishna, the Chief Operating Officer of Anantara. Then we also have an event on 25th of June, Marketing Mixology for essential of ingredients of marketing success. And Ambi formation we all know is former Ulka and well-known gentleman branding. He's going to be there he'll be in conversation with Satya Sriram. L. Ram Kumar is past president, former MD of things. And this time we are also getting something interesting for you. We are getting Manoj Batmanabhan. He is a restaurant chief mixologist, culinary storyteller. Culinary storyteller. Mr. Batmanabhan is going to be there. Got it? And you all know what is mixology, I'm quite sure. We are going to bring it to the concept of branding. It'll be very interesting. How many of you know mixologists very well? Anybody tried mixologists? You don't know what is mixologist? That means you don't visit any bar. You visit a good bar, you will know what is mixology. How to mix up good cocktails and how to make a lot of innovation in cocktails mixologists. Not that we are going to serve you a cocktail that day, but anyway, a mixologist is going to talk to you about how he is really put all his concept of thing in his branding. And so, Ambi always something different. So this is what he's going to do that. Then on 26th of June, we have another interesting event. This event is not to be missed event actually. Each one of you, thanks to Mali that you wanted me to do this event, insisted it must be done before June. Seminar on immunity, intelligence, wellness strategies for high performance living. This is a thing, and we have got 4 outstanding speakers. We have got Mr. Lovesley. She is a director of Apollo Hospitals. She's going to be chief dietitian. She's going to talk about dietitian portion of it. We got Lakshmi Nair. Lakshmi Nair is the head of physical medicine and rehabilitation from Apollo Hospital. She'll be talking our subject. We got Mathumati. Dr. Mathumati is a senior consultant of infectious diseases and control. She's from MGM. She's heading this department at MGM. She's going to be talking to us. And Dr. Suresh Kumar is the managing director of Best of IDs. So we got 4 outstanding doctors, and it's good to come thing. And we have chosen doctors. We're not going to confuse you. We're going to put you at ease and to see that some of the initiative you take, I think some of the preventive methodology what you take will be very, very good, especially when you take for what injections you take at different ages, and it'll be a good one. And please do come. It's happening on 26th of June and 4th of July, our flagship event, MMA AGM. It's happening 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There'll be a seminar on managerial excellence, followed by AGM award function and dinner. Please do come. We want to celebrate what we have done over the year. The performance the last year has been fairly good. We had a management committee meeting recently. They reviewed and said, yes, the performance is quite good. And we have Sunita Reddy. Dr. Sunita Reddy is the president of MR. She's also managing director of Apollo Hospital. She is agreed to deliver the keynote valedictory address. Veluswamy, president, automotive technology division, one of the man behind e-vehicles and Mahindra. He is going to be delivering the keynote address. This is happening on 4th of July. Then we have events fixed up almost till end of August. Only one event important I'll tell you is 12th of July. It's happening on the book, The Road Hyatt 2.0. Sitaraman, authored by Sitaraman, is All India Council for Technical Education, ACT chairman. We have 2 fantastic panels here. Dr. Kamakuri from IIT Madras, Lakshmi Narayanan, former founder, chancellor of Kriya University, and also Vaidya Subramaniam, Vice Chancellor and Tata Sons Professor of Shastra University. This event we are doing at IIT Madras. We are the partners for this event. There are a few events which I thought I'll tell you quickly. Now, coming to today's event, we are indeed privileged and honored and blessed. Thanks to Mani again for bringing this outstanding speakers to come and speak to us from boardroom to banyan tree and journey of conscious leadership. I know a lot of people came and asked me, on banyan tree, you're going to teach yoga. Can I bring my yoga mat? I said, no mat. Just bring with bring with clean mind. You will learn a lot of things. And when you get back home, maybe you will start doing yoga. I'm not sure. But it's good that you come and attend this event. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hand together to welcome two outstanding leaders. Mr. Subba Vaidyanathan, Life Leadership Sherpa and founder of BeingSattyaa Bali, and also Mr. Shyam Srinivasan, doesn't need introduction, you all know him so well. Shyam is a former MD of Federal Bank and Senior Advisor, Operating Partner, previous Capital. May I request you both to join, take a place on the dais, sir. Shyam, ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause to our distinguished guest for this evening. Yes. Before I request Mr. Subba to take it over from Shyam and the conversation, it's my broad privilege to welcome President of Madras Management Association, who has been a pillar of strength to us to bring in some outstanding events. And can I have you, please, sir?
Mr. K. Mahalingam, President of Madras Management Association and Partner Director at TSM Group, is a transformation specialist and seasoned investor with over 35 years of experience. An alumnus of NIT Trichy and IIM Calcutta, he led T.S. Mahalingam and Sons into a multi-business, multi-location enterprise. Mr. Mahalingam is also a prominent angel investor and active leader in alumni and entrepreneurial communities.
Yes, now I convinced Mr. Mali also to join on stage and join the conversation because this is a subject which is very dear to him. And I now request Mr. Mali to please deliver the formal welcome to us. Mr. Mali.
Good evening, everybody. It's a very strange moment for me. Introducing two friends I've known for more than 40 years. And my friend Maya here is there. So I can't make it formal, Shyam, so you have to pardon me for that. Welcome all of you to what promises to be a really enlightening evening. Enlightening evening for two reasons. One is we have one dear friend, Shyam Srinivasan, who I've really literally rolled in the mud together for 45 years. And from what he was to what he is today, makes my heart swell with pride. Sorry, Maya. Okay. He makes me feel very, very proud of myself because I often wear the t-shirt, I know Shyam. Okay. I think the Federal Bank crowd here will agree with me. Yeah. So, and Subba, of course, honest to God, when I met Subba along with Shyam and Maya 40 plus years back, I didn't think he'll turn out like this. Okay. He's turned out to be one wisdom wizard. Okay. Really, it's really our pleasure and honor, Subba, to have you here leading the conversation with Shyam. And Shyam brought this up. I've been talking to Shyam over the last few years about coming to MMA. I think he waited for Subba to come here to come and do this for us. Shyam was extremely busy and not in Chennai those days. Now he's extremely busy and in Chennai. So he's carved out a couple of hours for us. Thanks, Shyam, again. I'm not going to make this a formal welcome. Of course, the topic, all of you know about it and how the superstar syndrome, this and that. I'll leave that to Subba. I'm going to divide this into two parts. And I want to talk about Shyam a little because I told Subba that before we get started, share some of my personal experiences with Shyam. And, to give you context, we were what you call these days, the 90s kids, we were the 60s kids, actually. Yeah. Grew up in an era when ease of doing business means paying 30,000 for an immediate telephone. It was the years when everything was difficult and slow. There was nothing called a credit card. Digital meant maximum a calculator, Texas Instruments calculator those days. And technology meant engineering. Okay. And but what happened as we graduated was India won two great cricket championships, the ICC Trophy in 83 and the 85 ICC Trophy in the World Cup in 83. I think that for people like me and Shyam gave us an extra boost to our confidence. because whatever the cricket buffs, basically. That being the context of the era in which we grew up, and there were no credit cards. And you have Shyam here, who kind of started the credit card, was part of the credit card revolution in this country, first with Citi and then it started Standard Chartered. So we actually have Subba and Shyam were in Standard Chartered together. And a lot of the innovation you see in, there was nothing called personal loan also. So a lot of the innovation you see in the retail lending industry, I think these two have been very responsible. Shyam, first in Citi, then in Standard Chartered, then with Federal Bank also. So we're really privileged to have somebody who's been there, done it, and seen it all, basically. Okay, so for me and Shyam, we went to college together. I went to college with Shyam. I went to the same college as Shyam. He actually was my senior, preceded me to NIT Trichy. Then he worked for a couple of years. Both of us wrote CAT together. I was just a little luckier than him to get in the previous year. But I think Shyam did it deliberately because he joined next year, because you knew Maya was coming in next year. So he got in next year. So we were 2 years then. Then he came back to Chennai, and me and Shyam and Maya and even Subba and Renuka, his wife, in the same apartment. We used to meet up a lot. And then he moved on, of course. He's a mover and shaker, no? He had to move on. Basically, he kept moving on, and from where to where to where, headed Standard Chartered Malaysia, came back cards in India, then Standard Chartered India, then to Federal Bank. Through this journey, Shyam and Maya have been family for me, actually. So they've been great pillars of support, and I've been with them, visited them wherever they were. And talking of that, many people today, some irreverence here, pardon me for that. Shyam is a phenomenal success story. But one should understand, when we were in college, in many things, I was not very dissimilar to Shyam. We were not top of the class. I was not, at least by any stretch of imagination. We were not good at quant kind of stuff. I never understood numbers. Shyam understood a little better than me did. So, and he was not this aggressive, pushy, loud kind of leader at all. None of the characteristics one would have associated with the strong leader, the successful leader of those days, basically. This brash foreign bankers, thump your fist on the table, speak aloud, put the speakerphone on and speak to their colleagues and subordinates. Shyam was none of that. Maybe, I think he would have been like that by the time he had got married to Maya, though. So that softened him a bit. And Shyam was atypical in every way, atypical foreign banker of those days, basically. So one wonders, what, same college, same management institute, same personality. But this guy's I'm successful, okay? What makes him there? What gets him there? I really wonder. Even now, I've not got all answers. Maya helps me once in a while to get those answers, okay? So I keep wondering, but this afternoon I was talking, I thought I'll speak like this rather than be very formal. And I started trying to put together the pieces of what made Shyam successful. For about it, I come up with a few ideas why I thought he was successful. I'm not even discussing with Maya. I'm going to pardon her because saying glory about Shyam is something me and Maya don't agree on always. But I shall do it because it's his day today. So it's like this, Shyam has been a simple guy, simple human being. Was like that and continues to be like that. He keeps it very simple, everything very simple, and he keeps it very straight. He's extremely straight. What I mean by simple is, now I'll give you one example. It was his 50th birthday, and me and my wife, Uma, thanks to Maya, surprised him on his birthday. He didn't expect. And what would I expect a bank CEO to do? Throw a wild party, What he did was, you'll understand, we went to Guruvayur, came back, had a home-cooked meal at home, evening went for a drive. That is Shyam for you. No flash. He's typically understated, very, very understated, never promotes himself in front of everybody. The point is, Tana se so people flock to him. So he doesn't need to do that. His personality is like that. An extremely simple human being, extremely accessible. The beauty about Shyam is nobody says no to him. You know why? He never asks a question which he can get a no for an answer. That's Shyam for you, He'll never cross that line. He's so careful about that. No, never takes favors, I can tell you. You can ask me about it. So Shyam is unique in that way, I can tell you. So he never, because he's a charming guy, I must say. He had a huge fan following in college and later also. So given that, Shyam had to say a few no's there, I can tell you. So Shyam being Shyam does it in his own style, basically. So, and straight as hell, I'll tell you. You can never, the shortest distance between 2 points is always only a straight line for him, okay? He mentioned this a few days back to me that some of the business I do, he said, Mali, are you sure you do things which your mother will approve of? That was the yardstick, okay? You should never do something your mother never approves of. That's time. And being in the banking industry and growing aggressively the bank to follow that philosophy, I would give him a standing applause for that, I'll tell you. He was truly remarkable because that's an industry fraught with, I shouldn't say fraught with the, not necessarily the status path. And Shyam has been like that all his life. So, like, very simple guy, keeps it simple. His idea of relaxation or rejuvenating is early morning meditation. When I used to stay with him, he was up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock and meditating. Okay, so Shyam is that kind of guy. He's not the guy who relaxes with something else. It can be boring, but he's like that only. Other thing about Shyam is a cricket buff, no? So Rahul Dravid is his idol. So he played a test innings always, as he fondly says. He never played the 20-hour format. He built his inning and built that innings for 14 years and did a wonderful job at Federal Bank. I think his perseverance, sticking to core values, sticking to what he knew best. And you should give credit to Shyam for the fact, I've had this discussion before he joined Federal Bank, he and Maya, he was a retail banker and did no corporate banking. And Maya, as you know, was a corporate banker. So, most important factor for me in the many of the success factors of Shyam is, for me, apart from all this, was this person called Maya, I can tell you. She's the number one reason I can tell you. She's the number one reason. As I was telling some of you here, she's a literature student who came into IIM Calcutta, which is full of numbers. They spoke only in numbers and hardly in words, that place, okay? We never understood. I never understood. I was an engineer. And she took it to like a fish to water and cracked IIM Calcutta and got into ICICI. And people like me were struggling, wondering what was happening to us. And it was truly awesome. And she joined ICICI and brilliant banker. Shyam had to move to Dubai. I always tell Shyam, if Shyam had stayed in India, she would have been the CEO of ICICI by the time he was 35. Maya was, really, I'm not saying this to flatter her, and she was a brilliant banker. But more important than all this, Maya has been, they say there's a woman behind every successful woman. That doesn't go with Maya. She stood by the side of Shyam for him to be successful, I can tell you. Very different from being behind the man. She was a rock, I can tell you. She's a dear friend of mine, and she's so simple and spiritual that she calms. A lot of you think Shyam is very calm and cool. No? A lot of it is inspired by Maya, and she amplifies it 10 times for him, I can tell you. Maya's just the rock behind Shyam. So, Maya is, in my opinion, one of the biggest factors for what Shyam is today. And I don't think she's a little embarrassed, but it's fine. I have to speak the truth once in a while. Beyond this, Shyam is a great people's man, okay? Now, naturally, as I mentioned earlier, naturally charming. So people flock to him automatically, and he's very transparent with them. There is stuff he did when in Federal Bank, which are part of corporate legend. When he got into the bank, I'm not mentioning in public, but those are legendary. Shyam will be very embarrassed if I mention it. So loyalty for him, people swear by him. The biggest testimony to that is the farewell videos if you see on YouTube. People were literally weeping in Federal Bank when he quit. I don't know how many corporate leaders get that kind of affection. I think that's something Shyam built uniquely. And honestly, I found, you could call it a personality thing, but it's beyond that. Shyam was not just a personality or a brand. Shyam was a great human being and a great professional because he treated everybody fairly. So if you sum it all up, it's so logical. Come back to my original question. Again, same question, same college, same management institute. And he does so much similar to all of us. But he achieved so much more than all of us. Why? I leave it to Subba to figure that out. Thank you guys. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mali. And I think we had a very, very informal thing. Let me have an official introduction of Shyam and Subba. Can I have you, please?
Mr. Subba is a life and leadership Sherpa and founder of BeingSattyaa, a renowned retreat in Bali. A former corporate executive, Mr. Subba blends deep inner work with structured programs on conscious living and leadership. With roots in engineering, business, and ancient wisdom, he guides individuals through life's complexity. Mr. Subba's core belief, our potential is infinite, and life is an upward spiral. Mr. Shyam Srinivasan is Senior Advisor and Operating Partner at TVS Capital Funds and former MD and CEO of Federal Bank. An alumnus of IIM Calcutta, Mr. Shyam has over 3 decades of global banking experience. Known for transformative leadership, Mr. Shyam stayed Federal Bank into the digital era with resilient growth. A passionate believer in foresight, technology, and people-centric leadership.
Without any further ado, over to Shyam from Boardroom to Banyan Tree, a conversation with Subba, a journey of conscious leadership. Over to you, Mr. Shyam.
Thank you, Captain. Thank you, Mali. And thank you, MMA. Thank you, everybody, for showing up here and for those of you who are online. Delighted to be the first of the leadership series that I'm planning. 10 years ago, I left the corporate world to do this work. And I'm so happy to be doing this first with Shyam. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just take 2 minutes to introduce the concept of what we are trying to work on. I want this to be more real life and more practical rather than theoretical and conceptual. So we're going to be talking about some real life issues because I understand that when we can work with issues and look at real life ways to address them, that's when we will learn our own way of applying that concept in our respective contexts. Okay, there's no one solution for all. There is one framework which you can use as a solution for your own context. 20 years ago, when I was still in the bank, I had this aspiration, somewhat similar to Shyam, but that I needed to care for the people who worked for me. I found that people were burning out, people were getting exhausted. This is after the global financial crisis. So I did the thing which I knew, and like what Meera was mentioning, I started teaching yoga at work. Then that kind of morphed into teaching the people how to deal with stress. But over this period of 10 years, I realized that the root cause is what needs to be addressed. So no amount of going to the spa addresses the root cause. Similarly, no amount of yoga or Zumba or meditation or breath work will address the underlying stress that people face when they are at work. And to me, what I understood at that time was people are stressed because they are not able to be themselves at work. They're not able to connect the meaning of their work with their life, with who they are. So that's when I undertook to leave that world. And I thought that by working with people, primarily leaders, we could make a different world happen, both at the workplace. People would be a lot more energetic, impactful, engaged. Organizations would be a lot more impactful on the world. That's the intention with which I left. And somewhere along the way, at the same time that I left, Shyam was at Federal Bank. He took over a different route. And he had a real life experience of implementing all that I sought at his workplace. So today, thanks to Mali, we're going to bring this whole thing together. And I have many other people with who I walk. That's why I call myself a Sherpa. I'm not a coach. I'm not a mentor. I am a Sherpa because I lay the path and I walk with the people, beside the people, not in front of them. So that's my kind of way of doing this. I'm delighted to be here with Shyam today.
Do I say something? Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Mali. You were very kind with your words. I hope half of it is true. Thanks, Subba. You know, this session, when it was conceived, the idea was to try and... Many of us started out at the same time, had similar corporate ambition, aspiration. Each of us have landed at different places over the years. When Subba and I spoke, when I was yet in the bank, about 2 years back, he forwarded a video of the lady who was running Patagonia. I don't know if you're all familiar with Patagonia. And in which the underlying theme was leadership and how can it sustain or coexist along with doing good. And I thought it was quite appropriate, and both of us signed up to the view that you don't have to be only demanding. I don't say you don't have to be demanding. Only demanding, only nasty to accomplish corporate objectives. So we had then said, maybe in a lighter moment, that someday we should do something together and communicate this. And that thought just rested there. And about 2 months back when we reconnected, we reminded ourselves maybe there's an opportunity to talk about it. And that's how we are here, today. We hope to have a good dialogue, and in the bargain, all of us come out with new thoughts, ideas, which we can go back and implement. My own thought around engaging with people and leadership and is I don't want to sound pompous, but my belief is that if in a corporate environment, which tends to be both challenging, stressful, and demanding, if the leadership, I'm not talking for leader, I'm talking about the leadership or the system can enable people to feel good about themselves, invariably outcomes are favorable. Because environment is, we are not served a different environment than some other people in some other corporate, right? Life is like, it's not like uniquely choosing us to have a difficult time versus somebody else. The environment is the same. India is growing 6.5%, 7%. Or global is, growth is receding, whatever. It's a unique, the situation is the same for everybody. Now, different corporates, different institutions approach it with their own perspective, and invariably it's the senior leadership, the governance chain which sets the tone. And I, from my personal experience, having worked in both different geographies and multinationals and India-originated, originally ethnically biased companies, I've had the privilege of being in different environments. And my common theme and belief, and to my satisfaction it did work out, is if the effort of the leadership is to constantly focus around making teams and individuals feel better and important about themselves, I think the outcome is usually way better than the average outcome. And that speaks to the theory of helping people. We all live for self-worth, right? Self-esteem to me, or to all of us, is the most important thing. And we want to feel good about ourselves. And in that context, my own approach to leadership, and I want to believe it has helped achieve, some success is, if large cohorts of people come together and begin to believe that they can express themselves in the most authentic manner, the outcomes are way better than the average. And that means the institution is in a better place. So I think that's where I begin my conversation, and I leave it to Subba to sort of probe further, and we can have a deeper conversation around this. But that's just the baseline in which I approach my own journey, and we can speak from there.
Fabulous. And that speaks exactly to my experience in the last 10 years, both with Shyam's leaders, who I have worked very closely with, and the same holds good for whether it's Malaysia, whether it's Indonesia, whether it's the US, whether it's Europe. It's not a culturally different set of things. So what Shyam just now said applies across. And secondly, it applies across demographics also, of age. Okay, it's not that the older people feel differently about it, the younger people feel differently about it. So it's a very, very important nuance to understand that if you can let people express themselves, whether they are leaders or otherwise, everyone is a leader in that sense, based on who they are, you will get the best out of them. And that is the thing that Shyam, to speaking to your point, Mali, earlier, that's what he has consistently done in his organization. So I will give you all something very specific. The work that I do today is to help people understand what is extraordinary about themselves. If I go to a room and ask people, do you know? They know about the others, but they do not know what is it about themselves. Because they've not made a conscious effort to discover it, you all grow, quote unquote, in a humble environment. We think it's pride if I knew what is good about myself. So please go back and check in your most difficult moments, what skill of yours did you use to break through? How did you win in a difficult situation? And you will see that there is a pattern. Whether it's about raising your performance or breaking through a challenge, you would have consistently used the same set of skills or methods. Stick with it, discover it, and you will get the best of it. And if you are a leader, help people discover this. Now, today, I wanted to bring some real life challenges that leaders face. We've seen in the world, recently particularly, and I think Mali alluded to this, in the quest for a very short runway, I have to deliver fantastic results and outcomes. Leaders are driving for performance. That's a fact. Everyone has that challenge, okay? They go to a new setup or they take on a new role. First 90 days, 100 days, they're still figuring out what's going on. Before you know, it's like, I have to deliver some first year results. It's too late. Like I try and buy time for the second year, but I have to deliver in the second year. By third year, my term is over. And it's time for renewal, right? Which means 2.5 years, I have time for renewal. So there's tremendous time pressure on people. So I want to present a few, maybe in a way you see it as this versus that. So I had written this down, people versus performance. I had written it down as growth versus governance. I called it breaking versus boundaries. You can call it innovation versus regulation or breaking versus boundaries. Or capital versus collateral. Capital is seeking immediate returns, but it doesn't care about the collateral effects of something like that. Patagonia cares a lot about the environment because it says, I'm an outdoor company. If there's no environment, there's nothing for me to sell because people will not go outdoors. So that is a little bit different way of thinking about collateral. So what I wanted to ask Shyam is a person who has delivered on all fronts. Highly engaged people, raving fans about his leadership, but also multiples, 5x, 6x, 7x, 8x in terms of profits or revenues or outcomes in terms of book size, share price, all of these things, right? So Shyam, my question for you is, how do you see this dichotomy? Because this is the big challenge most of the leaders face.
Thanks. The way I think about this is, we live in an and world, not an or world. It's not this or that, it is this and that. So I think leaders, leadership, governance chain have to internalize the fact that we don't have the privilege of delivering outcomes at the cost of poor governance. It is delivering good results and good governance. We don't have the privilege of treating people as doormats and delivering outcomes. I think those are things of the past where windows are short and people get rewarded in short spans of time. Now I think the call out for wrong behavior is almost instant. So if we internalize the fact that we are living in an and world, the first thing that comes to mind is a sense of balance, right? And a sense of inclusivity. So if your leadership and your challenge, the senior team and the governance chain is acutely aware that we are living in an and world and our priority and our most important outcome is to make sure that the community of people we work with have to understand this and sign up to it. So this is a very long haul activity of getting followership, not by dictation, but by evangelization. Right? If Of course, there is a time element to it because we live in worlds where every quarter you have to go on television and explain why the hell did you miss the quarterly number. And here is where I think stakeholder management is extremely important. If as a leader you are able to capture the stakeholders and help them understand that why we are doing what we are doing and what is its long-term outcome, well-meaning people sign up to it. Of course, there will be naysayers and there will be people who will challenge it, and good. It's always good to be challenged. But if you have conviction that the model that you're pursuing is quite deep and sustainable, then you have to back that thought. So balance getting the stakeholders, as in this instance, say in a large listed bank, it's the governance chain, the board, the senior leadership. They cannot, at the drop of a hat, keep changing and move the needle, as it were, only because somebody else did something else and you have underperformed. Of course, there will be instances I have had in my own time in the bank, in my early years. After an initial honeymoon, many people called for my head and they said, this guy is the wrong guy for this job, take him out. Because for the approach we took, the stock saw some fall. Not some fall, material fall. Right? Because the market lives in very binary 0-1 situation. They like you or they don't like you. There is, they want this outcome and not some other outcome, and it's only natural. So the leadership having the courage and the backing of the board, if you will, to say, yes, we are willing to take those hard knocks and sustain it. And the best answer to that is time and outcome, right? I mean, today, by the grace of God, over a 14-year period, I came out with reasonably okay numbers, so I can say it, and there is some credibility to it. At midpoint, somebody would say, waste of time. I mean, it's only natural, right? I mean, the people will call you out. So, one is time, second is balance, but above all, extreme conviction and being authentic about it. You may fail. I mean, I'm not suggesting that everything we do is always going to go right, but if the intention, as you know, we all know, if you deeply desire something, the world conspires to get it. Alchemist said that, and so it's something that I have personally benefited and believed in. So I think the questions that Subba asked, is it performance or something else? I want to point to the fact that it is an and world, and that is something that we cannot unsubscribe from. We have to believe that. How do we accomplish that, and how do we ensure that the material stakeholders stay invested in that thought and don't see this as a personal agenda but as a larger institutional agenda? Invariably you get the support. So the answer, Subba, therefore, is balance, authenticity, consistency, and conviction that this is good for the long haul, and carry the stakeholders to sign up to that belief. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful. I get the word balance, I get the word and. So it's something that the leader has to figure out, and then you have to once you're authentic, then I think with these two, you will be able to get the stakeholders on board. So I'm trying to make it even more simpler. I'm trying to say, if you're authentic, you are confident, and you have to have the clarity and the conviction to be able to take it to the world and various stakeholders, right? And your consistent message, right?
And you'll have to take a lot of scars on the back, because there are people who are going to throw stones and tell you that. And, you know, I'm not, because my wife is here, but Mali did allude to her. And I have to say, yes, thank you. Because every time the only person who can go back and cry as a leader is to the family. And my only family is the dear lady here. So she said, okay, go, do it. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, I think it's, in today's world, there are opportunities for many shortcuts, which people try to innovate in the wrong areas to get outcomes. And then it comes back to hurt big time, not just you, but all your stakeholders, the investors, the employees, the clients, the customers, everyone gets impacted. And it's very difficult to bring it back, right, Shyam? There are many, many examples of that. but still people do it. So I'm just trying to get to the other side of it. Why do people do this? When people know this logically makes sense, what drives leaders to do the other side?
Gordon Gekko famously said, right, greed is good. So I think there is a, I mean, I don't want to be generous or otherwise, but it's when you look at leadership through the lens of results and the measure of, that theory, I think is what it's called, Gerhardt's theory or whatever, which basically says when the measure becomes the means, then the measure loses its value. Right? You start measuring results as the only way of declaring victory, then people start gaming it. So in this context of having to deliver constantly, if you are not able to preserve the integrity of what we've been given the keys to, it's a very hard call. And nobody is going to be able to give you the concession for underperformance. So there is a pressure of performance, but to deliver that in the most authentic, sincere, credible manner is what we are signed up to. I think the essence of that is the drum roll of the company, whichever you are, has to be at another level.
Yes.
And leadership is about making people come up to that drum beat. I would think the successes or the failures that we've seen in the recent past, particularly in the banking industry, we've seen some banks which, on the face of it, were looking like they were doing everything right, suddenly have been called out for wrong practices, is because they probably gave some of the more underlying core facets a miss or a pass. Because in doing so, they were getting rewarded, right? And that counterbalance or the ability for the system to challenge that maybe was being subdued or muffled in that system. Now, when we celebrate leaders, I think one of the questions we all have to ask is this a timeless outcome or is it good for this time and may not? And we've seen, without taking any names, the 4-5 banks that were celebrated as really rock stars turned out to be less than that in a reasonably short span of time. And underlying the core message is shortcuts or inappropriate practices were being allowed to persist. Now, who calls that out? That's where the role of the regulator and the governance system is, right? And innovation usually happens at the fringe of regulation. Everybody chooses to play that at the edge. You can make those little innovations. And unfortunately, multiplier effect of many such compromises turns out to be a problem. It's not like I made one and I got a positive result. It's the typical thing. When nobody's looking, I made that one mistake, I won. And then I think nobody's looking and I make that mistake many times over. I think the greatest learning for me, or I would encourage everybody, is particularly in corporations and even smaller teams, is the I don't want to sound like a moral science class, but we have to be supremely watchful of the fact that what you do when nobody is looking is more important than what you do when somebody is looking. Very hard to, I know as a leader or many of you as practitioners will realize, but what we do when nobody is seeing us is even more important than what we do when everybody is watching. Very hard. But I think in the long arc of time, you take companies, you will see that they have outlived, the companies that have outlived long stretches of time are where the leaders and the leadership, I'm not talking about individuals, institutional leadership, has actually done 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 the right things when nobody saw them. And then the outcomes have been more sustainable. Even the famous Jack Welch, after 25 years of extraordinary, the end was not so sexy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm no one to comment on how good, bad he was, but it's the long arc of time which calls out good, bad, ugly. So nobody needs to be passing judgments, but I think we have to figure it out that the core of what we construct, and I heard Mali say that, maybe Subba will refer to it, but one of the things I have so dearly believed in, and I still believe in it, and I encourage everybody to think about it. One is do things that when nobody's doing it, when nobody's looking at do it. But whatever we do, the one line I want to apply to myself, and I keep, for those who care, preach it. Can you tell mom? Whatever we do, if we can tell mom, you pick mom, replace with wife, parent, mother, father, uncle, brother, whoever is dear to you, and proudly say that, then you don't need a copy, you don't need a rule book. Because all of us will do only things that the family is proud of. Or our best, most well-wisher is proud of, right? We won't do things that we want next day morning says, look at yesterday's RCB event, right? It's a tragedy. After a great victory, poor governance led to the problem that Bangalore saw yesterday. All the fizz out of a great victory is gone. When 11 people lose life. If only they had planned better. Anyway, that's a separate story. But I would say, to answer Subba's, that question is this. We fall prey to greed is good. I'm not suggesting we should not pursue greed numbers. Of course we should. Outcome is everything. But I think the how and the means in the long run is as important as the result.
Absolutely. So this so neatly fits into what we all call well-being and legacy. And I'll talk to you just a little bit of what Shyam has spoken about. If you are consistently doing things that you cannot go to sleep with when you're alone, you will fall sick. You will get chronically sick. And that is why I say doing yoga is not enough. If you're doing things which are in this manner where when no one is looking, you're doing things which are not right, you will fall sick. You will carry chronic ailments and a lot of stress inside you. That's number one. It is a basic principle of well-being. So I'm just trying to bring it back because I always, for leaders, I bring it back to the person. And I ask a second question, which is a slightly a next generation version of what Shyam said. Can you tell mom? And I said, if your son or daughter sees you doing this, this is the only lasting legacy you leave. Because all the money you leave may not remain. All the homes you leave may not remain. But what you live in their subconscious mind will remain not just for them, but for their kids and their kids. So, would you do things and celebrate things which you want to pass on? So, it's the most lasting legacy, what Shyam has just said. And that's what you leave behind, not just at home, but also at work. With the next generation leaders, right? And through them in their homes. So it is such a huge responsibility as a leader to do the right thing, to do right by yourself, to do right by your mom, but also do right by everything else that you value. So thank you for that, Shyam. I think it's very, very important what you brought. So going back to the first thing, it is not just enough to be authentic to who you are, but also do things in a manner which is right. But coming to my third question, which is back to you, when you first joined Federal Bank, and then over the period of time, we've seen that if you have to speak to something consistently when share price is going down, you have to kind of get the stakeholders consistently on your side, even the staff or your employees are looking at what's happening to the bank. You have to have a personal conviction and drive and something meaningful which inspires you to get out of bed and get to work every day. What was that?
Some of my colleagues are there. Maybe they will tell you whether they believe.
I know this thing about most admired bank, but that came, I think, along the way, right? So how did it begin?
No, I think one general belief is if the senior team, the leader, the leadership is both passionate and consistently displaying that passion and behaving that passion, then I think there's a wider belief that forms. The line that I've always said, and some of you who may or may not remember the movie called Flashdance, which is a movie in the 1980s. And the line which stuck with me and has been my guiding principle is, take your passion and make it happen, right? And if we believe that leadership is passionate about something and is not inconsistent in their behavior with their stated passions, many start signing up to that. And in large organizations, it's consistency. The whisper channel in a large organization is bigger than any formal channel. Right? As they say, good news takes the staircase, bad news takes the escalator, wrong news takes a rocket launcher. Right? So, wrong news proliferation has a greater chance in. So, if I have said something, but my office or my colleague who works right out of my office, my door, sees exactly opposite behavior, in 15 minutes, the 15,000 or 20,000 employees will just laugh you out. Whether they do it on your face or otherwise, they'll. So I think the challenge for all of us in a particularly large setup, is the belief. My own model is belief leads to behavior, leads to process, leads to outcomes, and it's a self-correcting model. Right? If you have institutional conviction, belief, and the team sees that in practice consistently. One of the things I tried in the bank in my more recent job was I did put myself under a little bit of a gun, but I thought it is a nice way to do it. For 365 Sundays, I didn't miss one Sunday in writing something to the team. Right? Every member of the employee workforce got a message, some 8, 10, 15, 20 lines, which was therefore it cut the hierarchy. Employee number 1 and employee number 25,000 got the same message at the same time on the same day every week. So they get to hear whatever. It could be something that I observed in the branch or in the bank or something in the world, or Virat Kohli scored a century or something happened, and we just talk about it. And there's a greater chance that people see that there is no dilution of content. It's just consistently the same thing that every employee gets to read, see, hear, and starts believing in. Then there is a common institutional signature. I could say something, I go to the branch on the Monday morning, chances are they've read it on a Sunday, they speak the same language. Then the drumbeat of the company starts beginning to be that. So, answer your question is belief and behavior is not inconsistent, and it's for long periods of time.
Yeah, this one I think Maya will speak to this. Abhyasa as defined in Yoga Sutra. That's what he's talking about. So it's called, over an extended period of time, without interruption, and it has to be sincere. And people will see through that. That's what you said, right? So if you say something but do something else in the room. So you need to be consistent in this manner, and that's what is defined as Abhyasa in yoga, and that's lived in real life, right, as leadership.
I don't know this Sanskrit or not, but that's what I taught.
Maya knows it.
She taught me.
She did not tell you the word, but yeah, she held you to that. No, I'm asking this question also because you started with 8,000 employees. When you left, there were 16,000. When you started, I remember you telling me that there was not even an air conditioner and full of files in that office. And you moved to something where I even had a robo receive me in the training center. So what I'm trying to say is there's a huge amount of change, and also about the age of people, the average age of the employee who were there. Why I'm asking is, yes, Yammer is one of the ways you got your message across. But how do you get a large number of people across the nation to stand up every day with the same amount of energy when they come to work? And as a leader, I want to ask that question because it is a huge challenge for leaders to operate across, so many people, right?
I don't want to sound like very pompous and all, but I think one of the things hugely underestimated is stamina. And I don't mean mental stamina is important. Leaders extraordinary demand on their physical stamina. And that sometimes, only divine helps you keep that stamina, right? My earlier executive assistant, just 5 days back, wrote to me. He remembered and we were texting. He said, this man used to come into work not so well, but he would go back very well. I think there is something about if you fall in love with your workplace, and that's very hard. Somebody's guffawing, but right, if you fall in love with your workplace, the energy kicks in. And long haul leadership is above everything, other than intellectuals, whatever this mental stamina is physical stamina, because you have to be there, taking those bullets and smiling like nothing is happening every day. And people, particularly in the kind of bank that I was part of in the early days, it's very impressionistic. Sometimes the leader gets more credit or more bad news than on either side. If you do something great, you're rah-rahed. If you muck up something, you're like bashed into the earth. Both ends is probably extremely unfair, but that's the truth. There is a certain degree of probably it's an Indian thing. I've not seen this overseas as much. The Indian thing is we over-celebrate heroism. Right? Because maybe we're short of heroes, I don't know. Maybe there's an over kind of deification. So the responsibility of the leader is to continuously earn that, because it's a drug, right? The leader can get addicted to that. It's a drug. You can be hugely addicted to that followership, and that will itself keep you going, because you don't want to do the wrong thing to lose that. So the consistency, and I keep going back in all of that you said, right, is consistency, authenticity, and I would add stamina and intellectually believing in that and just being there. Because the external environment, that's my conscious belief, is the same for everybody, whether it is Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, Federal Bank, State Bank of India, pick any organization, the environment is the same. It's the ability for that team to say, I'm going to win this. I'm going to take it head on. I'm going to be there. I want to win. I will be there, come what may. I'm going to show up every day. I'm going to smile through it. I will take those hits. And that is stamina. And both intellectual and physical stamina play a massive role. And sometimes you need the divine blessing, because beyond you can have issues.
Yeah, that brings me to this question of values. And as a leader, what role do you play? And what is the role of the board? And let me clarify why I asked that question. I'm sure you had to take decisions under pressure. Time pressure and business pressure, both, right? So you can't just postpone the decision and say, come back after 1 week. How do you make sure that and we all have to do that in our personal lives also. There are times where we have to make important decisions where we cannot postpone it even to the next day, right? Or in the middle of a conversation, you have to say it in a manner which is consistent. In your case, it's multiplied. Thousands of people are listening to that, the answer you gave, or what decision you make, or what call you make. How do you keep the values inside when you take that call or speak?
Here I'll add 1 point. There is a huge value to creating your senior leadership on the same wavelength as you. I was blessed in my years, and particularly in Federal. Actually, I've had the good fortune of most of my teams, but particularly in my role in Federal, my senior most team, both my executive directors, the CFO, almost for 8 years were the same bunch of guys. And if you have that, you're almost never alone in that call, right? Sometimes you may get it wrong, but you can rely. But the message, I think, to what I would say is, create a cohort of people whom you can genuinely have that freedom for an honest conversation, and there is less agenda and more conviction behind what is right you have to do. But creating that is your job, is the leader's job. Creating that capability is our job. If you fail there, we can go wrong. And sometimes these things, maybe it's the stars align, but it's so important to get a bunch of people, and you need to know when to scissor it off if it's not the right kind of people. It's the toughest call. In fact, my read on leadership is, and I keep repeating it, right? The environment is the same. It's invariably how you get the right cohort of people, whether it's board members or seniors, and genuinely jam with them when the issues are not burning, then the burning issues become easier to handle. It's the non-burning time, how do you engage with one another, how transparently, how much you are able to align. I will give you most proudly, this weekend, 9 months after I retired, 37 people came home and we spent 24 hours like we were some school kids singing away. Right? I'm not kidding. And they didn't have to come. And these are not some just youngsters. Three of my executive directors came. And it was because it transcended the formal official relationship, because then we have one another's back.
I had some of them send me the pictures of that event also.
Some of them are your friends also.
So I can see the happiness in those events, right? So yeah, I get what you're saying.
Not easy, huh? It won't happen everywhere. So you need that culture.
So that brings me to, as we're coming to the close of this conversation, very important. How do you consciously set aside time and energy, a leadership energy and leadership space, if you can call it, in these matters when you also have to deal with regulator, when you also have to deal with clients, when you have to take important business decisions, and so many meetings to attend?
Yeah, these are 24/7 jobs. I don't think you have a choice. And then, see, everything is finally a trade-off. You do this, you trade off something else. But some choices we have to make, right? I'm sure all of us make choices for whatever we do. If this is your most important calling, particularly as leaders, and sometimes these are lonely calls, you have to make that call saying, I am investing in this, I'm trading off something else. I may do less of something else, but that's a call we have to take. I have this, I'm going to be unpopular with some of my younger colleagues. This work-life balance crap and all, I don't believe in. I'm not suggesting that you be irreverent. I think it's overdone. Nobody can be happy at work if they're unhappy at home, or the reverse. It is almost impossible. You have to figure out that balance and work hard. I mean, your life has got to work hard on whatever you want to do, right? So I would say this theory of how to balance it out, those mental trade-offs you have to make. But everything is finally a trade-off. It's this versus something else. You make that call.
That's right. No, the reason why I asked that question is not just about what you said, but also about how leaders are choosing to prioritize and say, right now for the next 2 years, I'm going to focus on performance, I'll get to culture and all these soft things later, right? So that's why I asked that question.
No, I think that, I know even in my current role, some may not like what I say. Right? If you give culture a pass, you've given your business a pass. Peter Drucker famously said, right? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture, whatever that is, it could be the leadership sets the tone. They say, right? Tone from the top and echo from the bottom. You have to set the tone at the top. Then listen to the echo from the bottom. And I also say, be a voice, not an echo.
That's right.
We have to figure that, balance it out.
So,
Einstein said that.
So leadership exists beyond the OKRs or KPIs, right? Oh. Nice, good.
Some of them must be corporate leaders and cursing me, but anyway.
So,
the retired man is blabbering something.
No, I have this same experience that I find with many leaders that I work with. The moment of realization arrives when they have, unfortunately, a big event in the organization which wakes them up, or a big event in their personal life, which is a wake-up call for them. I have had people who will call me and say, I am having palpitations, my blood pressure is going through the roof, what should I do now? And those are moments of awakening that they have, or they have to check into the ICU. But sad to say that some of them change, some of them don't. But most of them, over a period of time, do get to this. But in the world of business, people are often said, he's a softie, that's why he changed. So that's why I asked that question. But I think from what you've achieved in business, it's clear that it's not this or that. It is this and that. And it has to be done at the same time and not in one sequence. This, right?
Nobody affords us that luxury.
That's right. So, yeah, I just wanted to hand it over a little bit to
I think a lot of serious conversation. I want some levity in this now. I'm going to ask you some seriously unserious questions. Okay. I understand no work-life balance and all. What do you do to relax in your spare time apart from cricket? Don't tell me watching cricket. Apart from that, what do you do? Have I got you stumped there, Shyam?
No. I've been asked this question. For me, the relaxation is what I'm doing. I am not.
Oh, boring.
But making boring sexy is the role of a leader. That is what I genuinely preach it. I am not kidding. You have to find ways to make boring sexy. At least in a bank. That's what I am familiar with.
Outside the bank, at home.
Marry Maya.
Second question, Shyam, is that outside of cricket, again, because I know you're a cricket buff, who's a personality you admire and have tried to aspire to imbibe some of what that he or she did?
I think, Mali, probably you know it, right? I don't have any unique individual followership. I try to pick up or think about traits of people who are in the public life but have exhibited grit, consistency, and have played it long. Since you don't afford me the luxury of cricket, I will talk about Dravid, but say a Federer. Or more recently, if you've read my post on Nadal, these are people who have taken so many shots at them and for long periods of time and have demonstrated ability to stay the course. Or if you take the corporate life, more recently I've been greatly impressed with Satya Nadella. Right? I had the good fortune of meeting him almost 3 times one-to-one in smaller groups. And what he says there, then what you read read his book, see his results, there is a story. And he, like us, just like a normal guy, right? Of course, he lucked out being where he is or reached where he is. But he's a beautiful example of culture, consistency, and doggedness. I don't think he's like any of us. He's average, above average, and clever, but he's not some great inventor or something. But there is some story. Look at the way he's turned around Microsoft, which is nothing, right? I mean, they're popular, but nothing about them was sexy. Today they have $3 trillion in market cap. Some story there. So yeah.
I don't think you have an answer for this question. What was the last movie you saw?
I don't remember.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you. I watch movies.
Movie is an illusion like Maya for him.
I watch movies in fast forward. So I watch a 3-hour movie in 15 minutes. So
I've got a pretty good view of what you are outside work, Shyam. I'm done. Audience questions.
So before we just move, I want to pick up some of those questions, but I just wanted to capture some of the key things. First thing I heard from Shyam, and I think all of you would have heard this and wanted to capture that, is authenticity. Be who you are, bring your best into work every day, and that's important from a point of view of leadership. The second thing I heard Shyam speak about is belief and the balance, the belief and balance, right? And with you have that belief in balance, you will be able to win over with clarity, win over stakeholders, because it's not going to be all good days. And I think what I also heard from Shyam is the consistency with which you stay on the course over a period of time. And for that, you need a lot of stamina. Uninterrupted stamina, 24/7, as he said, the life of a leader. And within all of this also matters, what do you do when no one is watching? So I picked these up. Is there anything else that I left out, Shyam?
No, I'd only encourage everybody to watch that 7-minute clip by Angela Duckworth, right, on grit. It's quite revealing. You don't need to go further than that. But mindset and her study of people and how it's ultimately grit that matters in everything. Of course, there could be another school of thought which will argue entirely against
That's
it.
right.
But I subscribe to that, and I thought I'll just share that.
I also encourage all of you to watch a very short talk by a person by name Alex Thompson, who sailed the world solo. So he takes part in this one-day globe. Many like him take part. And he says that it's much fewer people do that than the people who have climbed Everest. And how they, for 90 days, are all by themselves on that boat. Pure, sheer grit. And it's all in the mind, is what he talks about. Sleeping for 20 minutes at a time, max, kind of thing. Right? So, yeah. So we'll get to the questions now. First one is, what does conscious leadership mean to you personally? And how has that understanding evolved over the course of your career? Shyam?
Nice question. It's a label you put after the event. Nobody starts out by saying, I want to be a conscious leader, right? I mean, you just try and practice. Sometimes it's like when you do it, these roles over extended periods of time, you are constantly learning and reviewing and correcting. I don't believe at 30 I would have been able to answer this question. At the stage we are in, we can probably. So I think the message here is go back to core values and stay consistent to the core values. And come what may, stay. And that's why grit, and that's why I amplified that message. The things that people, particularly younger leaders or mid-career leaders, have to be obsessively focused on is, in the face of extreme pressure and temptation, can you stay the course on what you believe is right and what you think is long-term good? Very hard, but that's what to me defines conscious leadership.
Thank you, Shyam. And to Sriram, to answer your question the way I have tried to stay with this, some of people in the room know my journey, is to answer one question: why do I care? Why do I care about showing up at work every day? And that will, together with the values, answer the question of what is conscious leadership. And that question, answer will evolve over this period of time. You have another question? Or that's it? Yeah. Okay. Was there a defining moment or experience that prompted you to reflect deep?
Yeah, I think these, again, in the beauty of when you look back, the answers are easier because now you can ascribe a motive to it. When I moved from one role to another role in the early 90s, I was doing sales and marketing, and one of my bosses called out and made me shift from sales marketing to do what was less glamorous at that stage, which is ops and collections and service. It was the least glamorous roles. And I, of course, like a young management graduate who thought the world rose from my backside, I argued with him. But he made the case to me, I must credit him with the wisdom, says, many years later you'll thank me. And today I sit back and I've said it to him, and I say it in many platforms. It's those sometimes forced situations which you take on and you make the best of it, and then it shapes your career very differently than how you charted it out to be. But it turned out to be a blessing for me because a relatively younger age, I got the opportunity to run a business because I had seen the business through multiple functional dimension as opposed to unidimensionally in one function. So I think to answer the question on defining moment, that's one. I'm sure there are a few more, but in the interest of time, I'll say it's the either forced situation or that fork. When you take that fork at the point where you believe that you're leaving a tried, tested path and moving to that untested path, and if you choose that and you're able to cross over there, maybe the rewards are better. So that's what I'd say.
Thank you. I think this one was also an interesting question. Dharma.
This must be from somebody I know in the bank because I have this crazy habit of using acronyms in all. So I used to, the dharma of leadership was not really the dharma as all of you understand. I had used dharma as in DHARMA, and I spoke about digital, I spoke about hashtag, I spoke about authenticity, and that's how the dharma came. But anyway, I'll just, could you elaborate on how this principle guided your leadership? I think we've spoken about it all evening. Is at least my dharma of leadership is sticking to the core principles, but having the flexibility to not be pig-headed about your view is right, but have the ability to. Sometimes when you're not clever, it's good to accept that you're not clever and take inputs from many others. And Mali calls it false humility, but it is me. I genuinely believe I don't know enough. And therefore, it helps me pick up from many others. And I'm not shy of saying that. It's good to not be very good at what you know, what you do. It's good to pick up from many others. It's helped.
Yeah, I think also as a leader, if you think you know a lot, and if you have known enough, that means you won't grow anymore, right? You're dead.
I've always said, right, all learning, all knowledge has an expiry date. Everything has an expiry date. You have to reset and constantly, to borrow a very hackneyed phrase, learn, unlearn and relearn. No choice.
Okay, while the questions still come up, I have one important question. And I particularly, this is a question for people I ask in India normally, to leaders. Most people know what to do, but don't get around to doing what to do, what they know that they have to do. What is this that blocks people? I also talk about this as a strategy execution gap in the context of organizations. Individually, it's about, I know what to do, but I can't do it. And I'm happy knowing it and not doing it. I'm talking about in the context of leadership.
Yeah, the only immediate off-the-cuff answer is self-belief. You think you can't and you believe that you will fail, the fear of failure. And second is because maybe you have not created a cohort of people who back you. So we have to find, and that's the toughest part. Very early I used to say, and I still believe it, somehow you need to create sparring partners at work who are almost non-judgmentally continuously backing you. Very hard. But to find that as a core anchor is a big story. And you can look out, and it's never a colleague at work. It may never be a colleague at work. It may be a person you started out with, but your paths have moved on. But you're able to challenge one another non-judgmentally. And you know they'll cover you back. It helps. Doing your tenure at Federal Bank, what was the stuff made that reflected conscious leadership in action? And that's a session in itself, but we can talk about it.
One example?
Yeah, I think...
which you can speak about.
Yeah. One of the things, these are very technical, but I'll share it anyway. One of my personal beliefs as a banker is the person who originates the credit should not be the one who underwrites that credit. That's been my core belief from very early. Maybe I was blessed in my first organization to learn that. But when you came to our bank in the 2010 kind of environment, there was a belief that only if the manager is empowered to underwrite that credit, you can grow. So there were diametrically different views. One belief was that you originate, you don't sign up the credit. The other was only if that is there, you can. So I don't know, beginner's luck or whatever, I made that call and I got my board to support it, and I said, no way in our bank we will allow origination and underwriting by the same person. Very hard call, maybe brave because I was younger, but we stuck to it. And in the longer span of time, we probably are the only bank which never crossed 3% NPA, whatever happened. And I thought it helped the bank, right? Because we never veered from the way. There were banks that even more revered names went up to 6-7% NPA. We never crossed 3. So that...
I think there's a question for me, Gautami. Thank you for this question. I would say that the journey started, I distinctly remember, year of the tsunami, 2004. The first time, for some reason, I thought that I was missing something as a leader. So I took 3 days off while the family was in Chennai to be with myself at home, disconnecting from the world. So that was one of the first steps where it helped me understand what I cared most about, to speak to Shyam's point, what I was passionate about. But I left the corporate world only in 2017 or 2016. So there's a 12-year gap between this and that. And to me, what I tell people is, you have to walk the path which you dream about to know what is the path. You have to walk the path that you dreamt about to know what it is. Because you can make up a strategy like what you say in organization, but unless you walk it, you will not know it. So it took me, I'm very slow, so it took me 12 years to figure out that I had to quit. But I really cared about something so hard, and was very passionate about it. And that moment of when I left was that I thought that the future of humanity rested on all of us discovering that, to use your word from the 2 days ago, weeks ago post, winning hand of Chandrasekhar, right? So it is to discover what is extraordinary in you and bring it to the world. I feel that that is the only way we can save ourselves from ourselves. Otherwise, we will live in insecurity all along. So I thought I had to leave to do this and have a multiplier effect rather than just stay in the organization and continue to do that. What advice would you give to young professionals who aspire to lead consciously but feel stuck in the rat race? Discover who you are and find out why you show up at work every day. You can trust me, you don't have to leave your job to find out why you show up at work every day. Every person thinks, oh, I have to go to a new country, I have to go to a new... No. Stay in the same job, find that connection, and from there you will keep growing and get better and better and better. I think that's all, like what Shyam spoke about. I can also speak to you and say, for 12 years, I have not fallen sick. I don't have cough, cold, or fever. I have no chronic condition. I feel it's something to do with doing things which you care about. It doesn't matter, like Shyam said, I work 7 days a week also myself. And I work multiple time zones because I serve clients from all over. I don't fall sick. My wife is tired looking at me. So, but the point is that I don't, because you care about something and you're doing what you're naturally good at. Right? So, how do you define effective leadership in today's Shyam?
See, this is the unfortunate truth is people measure us by results. People measure us by stock price and whatever, right? And there you cannot run away from that. But I think the measure of success has to be beyond that. That may be necessary but not sufficient condition is what I call the NPS score of employees, of your cohort of co-workers. Tough, but if your net promoter score amongst your people whom you work with, care, is high and moving in the right direction, then I think you can consider that as a good leadership. Are you done?
Just wanted to thank all of you for coming here. But I really feel that, Shyam, thanks so much for this open conversation. It's been a long time since we had this quality time of chatting like this openly. Every time we are in a rush. But, really happy that we could have this conversation about stories from our life. And thank you all for asking those, I would say, questions which provoked us to dig deep a little bit, right? So thank you all once again, and just hand you over to Mali again.
So, thank the 800 odd people watching online. 800 people watched online. So
Thank you. I think big round of applause for really it's a master class on conscious leadership, and I can assure you, I have spoken to them. It's only a beginning. You will see them more often in the MMA, and which they really agree to do so, and openly it's been confirmed they will be working with us for future on leadership, and whenever they get time and convenient. Actually, I request Mr. Mali to step forward and do the honor of listening. We'll give you more book to only read. The other committee members who are here can join us on stage for a group picture. All the committee members, it will be a pleasure to have you with us. Come, Mali, come. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. See you again tomorrow if you are coming. Till we meet again. Bye-bye. Good night. Be conscious about get back home safely.